This video covers Brio's internal animator. If you're looking for the standalone timeline animator guide instead, you will find it linked in the description. While the two animators share quite a lot of features and concepts, their UI and workflow slightly differs, so we'll cover Brio in this video alone and timeline animator in its separate video. Since I have issues pronouncing Vivacity, moving forward I will probably call it animator quite a lot, so every time I say animator, I'm trying to say Vivacity. In order to open the animator in the Brio window at the very top, you should see the option for the Vivacity timeline. Once you click this, a new window should open. Let's go over the UI that you can see at the moment real quick. In the middle, you have your basic playback options, so you can jump to the first frame, you can jump to the last frame, you can go to the previous frame, and you can go to the next frame. You can also play and pause your animation, and you can stop the animation completely. At the right hand side, you have a little checkbox to choose whether the animation should keep going or if it should stop after it played once. And you have a little drop down menu where you can select the frame rate. I will keep mine at 60, and later on I will explain how this frame rate will interact with the animation. On the left hand side you can see another slider. This dictates how long your animation is gonna be in total in frames. So you can either drag this, or you can double click it to type your own number in there. And lastly, you have this plus icon. This is gonna be useful now because we need to populate this timeline window with our actual actor. Once you have clicked this, you should only have one option in the beginning, which is gonna be Brio 1. This is gonna be your default actor. Once you select that, you should have a lot more things on your screen. Let's cover everything one by one because it's quite scary to look at in the beginning. At the very top, you can see which actor you've selected. We only have one, so we have Brio 1 here. Below that, you can see different options to keyframe. So you can keyframe the position individually, the rotation, the scale, all of them. Auto will try to guess which property you have changed. So let's say we have position and rotation keyframed in our bone, but we have only modified the rotation. Once you click Auto, it will only insert rotation keyframes. Capture pose just means it will keyframe all of the bones in your pose at the moment, and model transform will keyframe these values here. So if you actually move your actor's root. The last option up here is something that we will cover a little bit later in the guide once we talk about easing. For now, just keep it locked to B. Below all of that, you have your basic timeline. You have a little blue playhead. If you click on the ruler at the top, you can jump between frames and you can hold it and drag it around. And at the end of the window, you have a scroll bar. So you can click it and drag it around to move left and right in your timeline, or you can click the handles to zoom in and zoom out, or you can hover over the scroll bar and scroll to zoom in and zoom out. Now we are almost done with the basic setup, but before we start our animation, let's talk about the max frames and the FPS. For that, to make everything a little simpler, I will set my animation to 240, and let's drag out our zoom scroll bar again, and you can see we've changed it from 0 to 240. Our max frames are 240, so from 0 to 240 right there. And our playback speed is 60. So we have a total of 4 seconds of animation. So going from 0 to 240 will take 4 seconds. If I set my playhead to 0 and click start, this will now take 4 seconds to run. If we change our FPS value to 120, this is now gonna take 2 seconds to run. And at the same time, if we lower it down to 30 FPS, it's gonna slow down quite a lot more. So just keep in mind, your frame rate dictates how fast the animation is playing. And your max frames dictates how long your animation is in total. I personally recommend it to be higher than 100 frames, because 100 frames is quite little, and you always need to consider how fast your animation actually is. Depending on that, you might need to space out your keyframes a lot more, just because your playback happens quite fast. But now we actually need to animate something. We have Brio 1, our actor, added in already, but we need his bones in there. For that, I will click on this little open overlay icon. My bones look slightly different than yours probably, because I colored them in just to have a better visualization of what I'm looking at. So let's select his right arm, just for simplicity's sake. And let's think about what we want to keyframe. Rotation is probably the easiest to showcase. So let's click on rotation, and you can see our right arm was added to our list, and we already have a tiny little keyframe at frame 0. I will also quickly freeze our character, because I find it very annoying if the character moves while trying to animate. Let's move our playhead to frame 120, and we need to select a second rotation for this bone, because at the moment it's not going to animate. For that, we will just drag his arm a tiny bit, and we will click on rotation again. You can use now auto, because auto will realize that you have only changed the rotation, but I will just click on rotation again. If you scroll through your timeline now, you can see that you have created an animation for the arm. But we can do more to customize this animation. At the moment, it will just statically move from point 0 to this point at 120. So it will just move linear from here to here. But that might not be what you want. You might want the bone to start slowly and speed up over time. Maybe you want to start fast and then slow down to reach the target rotation. So let's click on the last keyframe. Your little inspector menu should have updated by now, once you've clicked on the keyframe. And you can now see the information that we have keyframed. You have position, rotation, scale. For us, we have only changed the rotation, so that's fine. You have this transform section, which just mirrors the transform section in Brio. And you have an easing section. The easing section is the most important part in here. Let's ignore the blend and step option for now. That will make a lot more sense later. Just make sure that your keyframe is set to blend. If you don't want to customize this curve at the very bottom, you can also use the preset and select any of these to automatically apply to your keyframe. For example, if you want to start slow and then speed up over time, you can select ease in, and I will just quickly change our max frames so we can leave our playback running so we can see what changes. And as you can see, our bone starts slow and speeds up over time. If you want to have the inverse, so the bone should start fast and then slow down, you can select ease out. If you want to have both, you can select ease in and out, so it will start slow and stop slow and speed up in the middle. Or you can select custom and design your own motion. So you can drag these handles to select the start and the end, and then just play around with it to customize its speed and rate of change. The neat part is if you customize your curve down here, it will update in real time. So while you drag this handle, you can actually see how your bone rotation will change. Let's cover step real quick as well. For that, I will take our keyframe and drag it closer, just so we can showcase this. And let's change our keyframe to step. When I drag through the first few frames, you can see nothing happens. Our animation stopped. But once I reach frame 40, you will see our bone snaps to the target rotation. So what step actually means is once you reach this keyframe, suddenly change to the values that you have keyframed in here, so position, rotation, or scale. This is quite useful for camera animation later. But just keep in mind, you cannot customize step at the moment. So if you want to change how your bones speed up and slow down, you gotta be on blend. If you want to reset all of your data, you can also hold this little trash can icon, and it will remove all of the bones in there and stop your animation. This covers basically everything for character animation. Let's look at camera animation. So I will click the little X icon to remove our actor. And for camera animation, we will need a new camera. If you click on this little plus icon next to entities in your Brio menu, you will be able to select free camera. Now with the free camera and scene, we can do the same thing as we have done with our actor. We click the little plus icon and select the camera too. As you can see, you get the same UI again. And just for simplicity, since the workflow is quite similar, we will select capture all. This will capture our current position, rotation and lens for the camera, right where it is right now. So let's move our playhead a little bit forward in time and fly our camera somewhere else. Let's say over here. And let's click on all again. And once you scrub through your timeline, you can see your camera animates as well. If you click on a keyframe, you will see you have the same options here. So you also have your transforms mirrored, you have your easing options, and you can dictate which property actually gets keyframed. This is where I find the step function to help quite a lot. So I quickly created this little sequence. As you can see, we have 3 step keyframes here. So it will step between these views, and you can see how useful that's gonna be if you have multiple camera views that you want to change through. This covers all features for Vivacity at the moment. If you're interested in Timeline Animator, I've linked the video down below, and I hope you have a lot of fun animating with the two tools.